Intrinsic value is not measured by how much money you make, but by the size of the problem you solve. Joseph W. Jordan. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Bill Young Grow Wealthy podcast. My name is Walida Cherie. Today, I want to talk to you about the book Living a Life of Significance by Joseph W. Jordan. Without further ado, let's get into this. This book is made specifically for the individuals that work in the financial service industry. Life insurance is the more specific field that he's talking about in this book. This book was not meant to give any in depth knowledge about life insurance or any other product. It was strictly written as a source of inspiration for people that works in the financial service business. So if you are not wanting to become a life insurance agent, maybe this podcast episode might not be for you. If you have no interest in what your life insurance agent goes through on a daily basis, then this episode is not for you also. This is for those who want to learn more about life insurance to work in the field. So that's who he wrote this book for. So I wanted to make that disclaimer so that you don't waste your time listening to the whole episode thinking you're going to learn about whole life or term insurance or universal or any of those type of policies, because that's not what this book was about. This book was more so trying to get agents to understand the importance of their job. Most insurance agents, they have various reasons as to why they become one, but he wants all of them, no matter who is in the field, to understand that they are going to actually be changing people's lives. They have the ability to change generations by asking a simple question. Do you have life insurance? And some people are going to tell you no. And so he gives strategies on what to do when you get those type of responses. But his whole thing is you need to at least present the information to people, because not presenting them the information can be very detrimental to future generations. And so he gives plenty of stories from agents who talks about clients that they've had and how these policies have impacted their lives. Mr. Jordan talks about his personal story, and this is the quote from his book. When I was 9 months old, my successful attorney father died without life insurance. My mother had to work as a secretary to raise all of us. My sisters did not go to college at the appropriate time, even though one got a full scholarship. The girls had to work to make sure the boys could get through school. Mother worked hard. I graduated and then mother became ill. She began to see that she would be dependent. She said, I would be inconvenient. She then willed herself to die. This is why she is not here to see her son on the main platform of the $1 Million Round Table. People do not deserve to go out like that. I want to know, where was the person of significance, the advocate, who could have taken my father, pushed him against the wall, and said, don't you understand you have to have life insurance? I'm advocating for your wife, because if you're gone, life could be miserable for her. Where was the person who advocated for my sisters when they were denied a college education at the appropriate time? Where is the advocate even now for my father, whose youngest son stands in front of you now? The only legacy that my father left was leaving us alone. End quote. So that's just a little snippet from his book talking about his life. And actually, his father was an attorney for one of the presidents. And so his mom actually was living a very high profile life at the time. She was a stay at home wife and mom, so she didn't have to work. And so basically, what happened was, days before his father died, he didn't pay on the insurance policy, which made it null and void, meaning that they were not qualified to receive any type of payment because his father did not make the payment on time for the life insurance policy. So the lesson that I learned from his situation is that even if you have been paying for life insurance, it is very important that you always pay on time, because you do not want that in between time of not paying to be the time that you die and your family's not covered. So in this case, his mom did not receive any check from her husband to help take care of their 4 kids. And so as Joseph got older, he started to see that life insurance was something that all families need, because he remembered how his family struggled not having a policy. The book also gives examples of people who did have policies. Here's a story from a longtime agent and financial planner named Jack Dempsey that he shared in the book. My client, we'll call her Sally, contacted my office to discuss insurance for her small business, a Christmas tree farm. I invited her into my office to meet face to face. As we talked about the right policy for her business, I asked her about her retirement plan. She had none. Well, your employer really ought to provide a retirement plan, I joked. In all seriousness, I explained that at her age of 30, retirement savings would accumulate over her lifetime. As a self employed person, she would have to consider things that another employer would otherwise do for her. After she set money aside for retirement, Sally agreed and chose a $100,000 universal life plan with her mother as the beneficiary. Sally told me that she wanted to be sure that her mom was taken care of if anything happened to her because her dad had failed to do so. When he died at a young age, her mom was thrown back into the workforce as a school cook in order to support herself and her two young daughters. Sally was still in her early 30s when she called me again. She had found herself in a position to purchase her aunt's Christmas decoration shop as a compliment to her successful tree farm. She had entered in an installment plan with her aunt for a purchase price of $160,000. She wanted to be sure that it was paid if, for any reason, she was unable to make the payments. So we covered the business with annual convertible term. I delivered the policy that Wednesday. On that Saturday, Sally was killed in a car crash. Her mother received $100,000, which she placed in an annuity that allowed her to retire and draw a comfortable income. I delivered the $160,000 to Sally's aunt, who was in poor health and was able to cover her care with the proceeds. But the story doesn't end there. Due to her aunt's poor health, Sally's sister Diane inherited the business. A few years later, I was receiving the business insurance with Diane when she shared with me another chapter in Sally's life. Because of Sally's careful planning, Diane had inherited the business debt-free. She and her husband had never been able to have children, nor had they had the financial resources to pay for costly fertility or adoption alternatives. But with the business free, clear, and successfully up and running because of Sally, Diane and her husband could afford to adopt a beautiful little girl from China. They named her Sally. As I listened to Diane that day, I realized that the insurance proceeds I delivered on her behalf were really love letters. The letter to her mother said, "I want to make sure you can retire, Mom. You deserve it, and I want to give that gift to you." The letter to her aunt read, "I know you can't afford to have me drop the ball with these payments. You've worked hard for your business. I honor that commitment, and I want to make sure that I live up to my word." And the love letter to Diane said, "I trust you with this business that was such a huge part of my life, but I don't want to saddle you with a financial burden that would just make things harder." But the letter that Sally didn't even know she wrote was to her niece and namesake. That letter read, "Welcome to the family. You will never know me, but I live on through you." End quote. There were other stories where somebody's dad left him a policy, and because of that, he was able to pass down a legacy to his son. Somebody had a kid and the kid died too soon. They had a policy out on that kid, and then they made it where scholarship recipients could get scholarships in the name of that child for the alma mater that the son went to. So I wanted to make sure that I put this book on a list because some of you may be interested in becoming a life insurance agent. You may be interested in being in the financial services. If you are listening to this podcast episode and you've never thought about becoming an insurance agent, I suggest reading this book first. And then I suggest putting your feet in the water and testing it out to see if you like it or not. Now, one thing that this book does talk about is the importance that if you do decide to go into this industry, that you do need to have good intentions. Yes, you can make a lot of money, but if you make a lot of money but you hate what you do, you won't be doing it for long. So he wanted to make sure that all of those readers who see his book understood that this is not a business to go in solely for the money. This is a business where you go to change lives. This is a business that you go in to help to build wealth in people's families. So if this is something that you're interested in, if you think that you have what it takes to help people to change generations via life insurance, by all means, like I said, read the book. It's called Living a Life of Significance by Joseph W. Jordan. I really do think you'll like this book. But again, this book is not written for the client. It's also a good book to see if you have a good one, because if you notice that they don't have integrity, if you notice that they don't follow up with you, because really and truly, if you did your policy through a person, they're supposed to follow up with you every year on the day that you purchased your policy to ensure that you didn't have any type of life changes, like having a new kid, having your first child, getting married, got a divorce, somebody died, you got sick. They're supposed to check up on you every year to see if things change, to see if your policy needs to be upgraded. So, this is also an accountability book for those of you who do have a life insurance agent to make sure that they are doing things the proper way. Now, if you are an agent and you work in the financial services, he also gives pointers to what you can do to better improve your business. Some of the things that he suggests is to try to reach out to 10 people every single day. Now, these 10 people may be people you know, friends of friends that you know, or it may be people that are total strangers to you. But the purpose is that if you get 10 people every single day that you talk to, even if all 10 people say no, they said no for that day. So they may come back to you in the future with, hey, I remember you talked to me before about life insurance. Are you still available to help write me a policy? So you never know. You never know who needs your help. So I recommend reading this book for knowledge if you are an agent, for inspiration. I do not recommend reading this book if you are looking for in depth information about policies because you're not going to find that here. Overall, I do think that the author, Joseph W. Jordan, is a great guy from what I've read. He seems to have a lot of integrity. He's constantly reflecting on his why. And because of that, he's become successful in his field where he's basically mastered all levels of life insurance, if I'm honest. So sometimes, we go through pretty tough storms. And in his case, he lost his dad. I think he was 9 months old. So he essentially grew up with no father in a single parent home. And so he said it made him angry, but it gave him purpose. It made him not want other families to have to suffer through that same type of pain that he experienced. It also helped him to want to reach out to people and get them interested in the field. So basically, he wanted to make sure that if you're in the field, that you don't feel slimy. Okay, you don't want to feel like that slimy car salesman. You want to have joy and find significance in the work that you do. So go out and get this book. I think you can read it on Kindle. I think you can still get a hard copy of the book. At one point, the books were sold out. That is my book of the month. I think that this was a pretty good book to read because September is Life Insurance Awareness Month, and I thought it was pretty fitting. Do not join, and this is my opinion, network marketing type of insurance companies. I think you should actually work for an actual insurance company so that you can strictly focus on the life insurance aspect and not have to recruit. And that's just my personal opinion because I actually got enticed to join a company at one point that I found out after I signed up that it was actually network marketing. I absolutely didn't like it. It didn't fit me because I didn't want to recruit. I just wanted to sell life insurance. And I think the pressure will be off if you do it a different way. But I also think that if you do decide to work for a company, make sure that they sell from multiple companies, not just one. So that is all I have for now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like this episode, please share this episode with a friend of anybody you know who is thinking about getting into the financial services business or people you already know that are in the financial service business. Tell them that they need to read this book. Also, don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, I will talk to you later.